Sammy Walsh, welcome to the podcast, man.
Do you want to take that flip-flop out of your mouth, Dyl? Or?
I was a bit nervous, man. Far out. This is the first one back for the year. I'm a little bit rusty on the mic. Yeah, it's like that first session back. You know, you're always just blowing out the cobwebs.
Miss kicks and chasing after it. Yeah. Thanks for having me, mate. It's been in the works for a little while, so keen to jump on.
What made you finally agree? I thought it was like either this stage was a restraining order or like an agreement. Did I just work you down as like a tagger, or did you finally just sort of come around to the idea?
Yeah, your work rate's been good, but I think for me, I probably haven't always quite been as out there with doing stuff like this, and I probably have been a big listener of podcasts and thought it'd be a great time to tell a bit of my story, because I've gained a fair bit of motivation or inspiration and little things off certain pods, whether it be yours or others. So if I can help like a young kid coming up of what it's like and share a bit of my story so far, I thought it's a good time now. And past probably 12, 24 months have been a mixed bag with a bit of everything. So thought it's not bad timing now.
Bloody oath, man. It's crazy because for me, being a massive admirer of you for a long time and everything you do, and obviously you've got some really close mutual friends at the club, and the way people speak about you is nothing short of it's all true things, I know, but they have so much sort of love and respect for the way you are, not only as a good person on the field, but the player and white line fever and that competitiveness that you have on the field as well, which I'm really looking forward to unpacking today, man, because it's been an incredible journey thus far with a lot of ups and downs. Not so much downs, but over the last period with your back and a few injury sort of things that you've had to work your way through.
Yeah.
Keen to unpack it all, which is really, really exciting. Plenty more ups and downs. Hey, what's going on? How's the break though? Was it good?
Break was good.
What'd you do? You in Japan?
Bounced around a little bit during the break, but we obviously went into finals, and as you know, when you're not making finals, you got plenty of time to probably plan for a trip. But a few of us boys, when we got knocked out, we had a week before best and fairest, so we were like, we heard a bit of hype about Japan. A lot of Australians going over there at the moment. And
I've never been. I'd love. It's on my top of the list to go.
Yeah, culturally it was unbelievable. In terms of, I probably thought there was going to be more English spoken, but it wasn't quite that, and you definitely felt like a bit of a fish out of water. Particularly, there's 30 million people in one city, so had some great fun. We were sort of more bit in the nightlife and enjoying ourselves, and then just walking around during the day, and then had a few weddings as well, which close mates Jack Savani and Maddie Kennedy both got married. As you know, always a fun time and everyone's up and about. So that was a good way to spend the break. And I was also sort of pretty keen to get into the training side of things after having a few interrupted pre-seasons. So bit of motivation on the side there as well.
100%. I want to talk to you about your pre-season in a second. But with Japan, I want to head over there this year. Where'd you go? What would you recommend?
Yep. So we went to the main spot for food drink was Shibuya.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those small type bars. Everything's pretty cheap relatively to going over to Europe or America. So that was a bit of a bonus of the trip. We also did a few little things, a fair bit of shopping. Went to a few magic shows. Karaoke was good.
Magic shows?
Yeah.
Boys are getting loose at the magic shows.
Yeah. Bit of a random feature that. But we went there not knowing much and just bounced around a fair few things. But the food and shopping were the two main things.
Is it as good? Like, I went to Italy, and there's people going to kill me for saying this, but I reckon we genuinely have better Italian in Melbourne.
Don't let Adam Chera hear that.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like the Italians
I reckon Lygon's... Like, we have such a great population of Italian people here. So I just feel like it is very close to what you would get in Italy.
No, I tend to agree. I've only ever been to Rome, but it's not far from... Danini's isn't far from an Italian joint.
The trios?
Yeah.
It's very, very good.
You'll be
there.
full for a week after that.
You will. You will. No, they do it well. And I know with our beautiful fans, we might get slammed for that one, but I know we just do it very well. Was Japan's food legitness? Yeah.
I'm not a massive seafood eater, but enjoyed it over there. Everything was, so advanced. Like, you go into the shops and it's like your robots coming around to serve you, or like the sushi trains, and they're very advanced in that stuff, but then also really traditional in other things like pay cash a lot. the people there are so nice, like the respectful side.
Cleanest city in the world, I've heard as well. Like no littering, no like.
Yeah, and we went with like Kempy's like 195, and everyone was just like staring up at him. So you definitely do stand out a fair bit. But yeah, cool place to see. I reckon I'd love to do a snow season over there, or like a bit of a skiing, but not quite while I'm playing footy.
Oh mate,
at the end.
Skiing is.
Are you going to do that?
Yeah, that's what I want to do. So skiing, our dream is to go skiing this Christmas over there. It's like a white Christmas in Japan. I'm pretty sure that's the right time. But yeah, Juz and I and Max have been keen to get over there, which will be elite. Off season though, talk us through what it is. Like, was it a bit of a time for you to get the body sort of back, a bit of a rest obviously as well, but then as you said, last few seasons have been a little bit interrupted with pre-seasons, getting the body right. Like, how are you feeling? What was your big focuses heading into the off season, and what did you do to sort of feel your best? Yeah,
we had our 3 weeks off after the season, which I only played the 18 games throughout the year, which in comparison to like a Charlie Kerner or Weeders, they played 26 games plus 2 practice matches. So my body didn't feel as banged up, but because I was probably coming from a base of no pre-season, there was certain parts of my body that I wanted to get right. So after that 3 weeks, really sort of honed in on what I could do to get my back in the right condition, strengthen it up, which towards the end of the year we were getting there, but it's just so hard when you're playing games at a high level because you've got to come back down, recover and bounce again. So the Pilates was huge for that and the gym work. And then also doing a few other rehab things for my ankles and stuff that been giving me a bit of a trouble. So was based in Melbourne for a lot of that, and there was about 10, 15 guys in the club most of the time. So the best thing was throughout my break, I could sort of break that up with like a trip here or there. And I think I get a lot of enjoyment out of training. So when I have been injured, that took a bit of a toll mentally because you can't get out there and do it. And so I definitely gained some perspective in that time.
Man, I'll talk about this a lot this year, and I apologise to listeners, but like I'm probably a fair bit long time out of the game now, but I just didn't realise the impact that physical workouts and like that energy of like just running around and going to the gym has actually had an impact on me. Like the last few years I've done so much work on my mental health and like business and growing in those areas, but completely disregarded like getting in the gym and doing those bits and pieces. And I said on the mini the other week, like I used to, when I was playing, I used to walk into a room and just be like, I could literally beat the fuck out of anyone here. Like I just like would see Michael Voss and be like, I reckon I could take anyone. Like even Cripper. There was something in my head just being like, I don't care.
You've
like
done the work.
I've done the work, mate. I'm that jacked. Like I don't know what it was. It was delusion, but it was just you were that confident in your body.
Did Rexy have you on a good
program? I was on a very good program. I'll show you some photos. And now I literally walk outside, and if it's windy, I'm holding on to certain things. So I really this year want to focus on that and get back into like.
It might even help your golf game, mate.
Nothing's helping that. I've actually heard you could be the only player that's worse than me at golf. And that's, I do want to talk about this.
I've been told that by a few people.
Like I have an ugly swing, but apparently yours is genuinely worse.
Yeah, I love a lot of my sports, and golf I was trying to tell myself is a great game socially for me to be with the boys, but I'm using my back injury as a disguise of why I'm not playing golf, but I really just am no good at it at all. So had some nearly tears on the course throughout the past couple of years.
Mate, it teaches you a lot.
Giving the sticks away, so
good.
Yeah.
How if you have to go into it, like how scary was the back injury, and like I suppose was it actually an injury or was it just sort of a couple of things that just kept getting, I suppose, over time tickling away? Like I was, to be honest, I had like a couple of back things throughout my career, had many epidurals, like I had a really bad disc that still to this day caused me a bit of grief. Like unless you've had one, it's hard to sort of articulate how debilitating they are.
Yeah, you're spot on, and that's probably what I've learned through it all of how many people have experienced certain things like that. And for me, I'd always, it's like playing footy, you get a sore back from time to time. But towards the end of 2022, just going into 1 week, it was like my back just locked on. And that was after the Adelaide game, which might have been around 21. And then from there, I was sort of getting work through my back. And then after about a week, it turned into this real bad like sciatic nerve pain. So that was up against Brisbane, and sort of felt like in the second half my calf got like really tight, and I just didn't think anything of it. I was like probably a bit stubborn, and then we got up against Melbourne that week, and I reckon my top speed running for the game was around 19, 20 Ks, and it's usually around 30, and I just couldn't go. And then that led us into the game to try and make finals to beat Collingwood, which was one of the toughest games of footy I've had to watch. And for how it ended, it was pretty hard sort of couple of weeks, and that sort of drove the group this year in a lot of aspects. So from there, sort of we rested my back. It's a bit of a long story, but then got better for a bit. But as soon as I got back into kicking ground balls, the nerve pain wouldn't stop and couldn't function. So had the surgery, and since then it's been really good. But like any surgery, it still can take 12, 24 months for it to really start feeling good again. But I was lucky towards the sort of the back half of the year started to feel really good, and the nerve pain was on my right side, so just kicking the footy was probably the biggest challenge.
The game you're referring to as well is the round 21 game against the Pies, 95 odd thousand, nearly 100,000. You had to withdraw because of the back. Like, I can imagine it spurred the whole team on, but yourself personally as well, to get back and perform the way you did this year. That must have been still in the back of your mind. Yeah,
absolutely. It's like 95,000. You're still, when you're not out there playing, you probably feel very lonely. Ultimately, it's like what you want to do is go out there and play. And then for that to not come on, and for us to not make finals, which was an aspiration for that year, definitely drove us into 2023. But I think we probably learnt some valuable lessons at the start of 2023 of not focusing too much on what we want to get and what is actually the process behind it, and how can we help each other sort of stay engaged rather than like worrying about what's to come. So definitely keeps you on your toes. You'll learn a lot of things throughout like a year of footy.
What's been the biggest like learning out of the whole thing? Because I know for a fact you're one of those guys that will never let a negative situation turn into something that's bigger than that. Like, I'm sure you've learned so much out of this time that you've had to spend out of the game in those short periods, but also training and getting the back right. Like, did it lean you to focusing on the leadership, the mental side of the game of sort of getting yourself right and having confidence and knowing that, sometimes it's not like being a 16, 17-year anymore, just being able to strap the boots on, go out and play, learning all those bits and pieces that have probably built you into a more well-rounded leader now?
Yeah, you're spot on. Definitely for the on-field stuff with my back, I probably learnt that I used to go in the morning at the club and just do like half an hour of touch, ground balls, kicking, and just try and smash that before training. And for me, like, the more the better. When a few of the injuries crept in, it's probably what can I do to work on my body, whether it be the Pilates before training, certain stretching, activation to get my body right, and then go out and perform on the track. So that was a big lesson on field. And then off field, I think the biggest thing for me was probably developed a fair bit of empathy for guys that have had injuries throughout their career, and how taxing that can be. And I feel like now guys that are going through injury battles and that, I can go up to them and relate to them and speak through. And if you play footy long enough, you're going to have injuries. But at your lowest times, you feel like that's when you need people to lean on. And that's what I had at the club. And hopefully I can be that to others as well.
Speaking of that leadership side of things, like, again, it was something that's come up so much when talking to teammates, coaches, all people involved with you. And it seems like such a common thread too, from like junior footy, under 18s, pick one in the draft, come to Carlton, and since the second year you've been in leadership groups. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's pretty it's unbelievable. Well, it is believable, but it's also pretty incredible. What do you put that down to? Like, it's hard to do, because I think back to myself personally and a lot of other 19-year-olds or 20-year-olds walking into the club in their second year, and I was still too scared to talk to people, let alone be in a leadership group. What do you think has made you, besides obviously your on-field performance, what do you think has made you have the confidence to do that? And has it always been a trait, and has it always been something top of mind to go in and be like, no, I can lead from whatever age, it doesn't matter?
Yeah, it's a good question, and so I reckon a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have been able to answer that. But as you get a bit older, you probably reflect on what's like made you into the player or person that's got you to this point. And I think for me, the biggest thing was young age, moved around a bit. So grew up down in country Victoria, and then started grade 4, moved up to Darwin for a couple of years. And I think, and then after that moved to Ocean Grove. So I think from a young age, that sort of probably taught me the value of relationships and getting to know people and learning how to fit in new environments. And footy was always a big part of that, but also just having the confidence to go outside of myself. And I think I probably was able to learn a lot of different sort of walks of life, bouncing around, and being able to relate to a fair few people has been a big key in my leadership throughout, I think. I think once you get the respect of your teammate or person, then you can lead by example. And from there, I've always tried to train how I want to play. And I think the biggest thing throughout it all was also just remaining pretty grounded and knowing that that as good as you think or as bad as you think, and keeping that equilibrium's probably allowed me to stay consistent. So that's probably the relationships thing's been the biggest thing for my leadership, I think.
It's elite, man. You said before at the start of the show, like, you've listened to podcasts before, and if you could have a way to maybe learn from other people and people learn from your story as well, a question that if I was 18 or 19, or even just think about this as well when people are listening, it's like not just going into a footy club, but going into a new workplace or a new fucking sports team or relationship, any form of thing, you go in and you want to have, you want to do it the right way. You want to earn respect versus being liked, all these bits and pieces. What advice would you give to, say, a young kid, male or female, going into a footy club at a young age? What's the most important thing that you think you did, and then now as a leader that you see young people do coming in?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the AFL workplaces are probably similar. It's similar to a lot of businesses in a sense, but the one thing you always do get is new kids coming into the club every year. So it's definitely something that you observe. And I think the biggest thing for me was I just wanted to be respected for the way that I went about it, and that was on field, train as hard as I could, but I always tried to ask as many questions because with that knowledge, and I can make good decisions off the back of it. And I was lucky at the club. I arrived at a time where I think at Carlton the culture was really building. Had older guys there like Murph and Simo who had the experience, and then you also had Cripper, Weeders, Charlie. I'm going to miss guys, but that you could look up to and see that's the level I've got to get to. And I think throughout that, I've also been able to have a little bit of fun with it, and it's not too serious. Like you can't be on all the time. So I think that balance also helped me. Some people might see it from the outside. It's like, oh, he trains hard. He's just very narrow, which some guys might be like that and it works. But also having that fun side of it. And like I said, I enjoy my other sports and, traveling and stuff. So that's other ways that I've been able to enjoy it with the boys.
From an outside view as well, and only you can probably answer this honestly, but even from, talking to people, you have that mix, nearly one of the best I've heard of, like training really well, but then being able to just do your own thing off the field and, make jokes, do other things. I feel like in footy and even in work, like once you're in one or the other, it's hard to sort of be good at both. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things I probably have always done a bit naturally. Like I'm definitely a bit more of an out there person. And
like you love magic shows and stuff.
Random stuff like that. But once again, it sort of goes back to like the relationships I've built. Like even in the locker room, there might be someone that enjoys the soccer, so I'll go over there and have a chat to them about Liverpool beat them on the weekend. Or stuff like, I find if you have relatable points with people, then you're going to have a good time because you keep it social. And I feel like at footy clubs, it's nearly like I talk to people, it's either like a local footy club or like you're back at school. The banter's unreal. And I think we've got a group at the moment that knows how to balance that. And it's just keeping the finger on the pulse when it goes too far each way, which is sometimes hard, but good fun. Talk
us through your sports. You've mentioned it a few times. I know you're a sucker for American sports. Like, what's your 3-2-1 outside the AFL in terms of like viewing interests?
It's a good question. It bounces around a bit. I'll go the NBA one NFL 2, and then the EPL. Oh, yeah. Have I done that 3-2-1? Yeah.
So number 1's basketball.
Yeah.
Number 2, NFL, then EPL, and teams.
And
players.
Yeah, in the NBA, I more follow players, but New York Knicks is my team. The NFL, it's...
So was that a player that played with them, or...?
Growing up, I'd always wanted to travel to New York, and then I always loved my basketball, so I put the 2 and 2 together. And I've ticked that off the bucket list, watched New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden, so that's pretty cool. And then the NFL, Cleveland Browns, because I was a big Baker Mayfield fan.
Yep.
He did a bit of like the content creation and stuff throughout college, so I followed him through, and then that's why I picked Cleveland. And
is that Johnny Manziel was there as well?
Yeah, Johnny Manziel was before Johnny Football.
Man, I'm so interested in him. I've been watching that show lately too. Like, it's just fascinating.
Yeah,
like to win the Heisman in his freshman year, then second year goes number 1, and then he's now out of the game.
Yeah, it's
and he was like selling all of the merchandise and shit.
That's the thing. Like, the college athletes can make money now off playing, whereas like they had to do it sneaky in a way, or they get cut. But yeah, that story probably shows the importance to surround yourself by the right people. Like, he had guys coming from a lot of angles, which I think in AFL we've got a great balance of, we can live a pretty cool lifestyle of, it's so cool having kids coming up to you down the street, or people saying we love watching on the weekend, but it's not the intense focus of like a Johnny Manziel or a Baker Mayfield of everyone's following their every move. So I reckon we're pretty lucky in that sense.
Another one in the top of my head, and I know this isn't real life, so don't jump down my throat.
Real life?
No, I know this isn't like the real life, this movie, but Draft Day with Kevin Costner. Doesn't he work? Oh, that's the Browns. Is that the same?
That's at the Browns. Yeah. So
I like that movie.
What's that?
He picks up Jennings. Jennings,
someone no matter what. He says,
Vontae Mack.
Yeah,
Vontae Mack, no matter what. Yeah, and then he picks up Jennings as well. Yeah, that's a great show. And then EPL, who you support?
Liverpool.
Okay.
But, I don't really have a reason to go for them, but a few of the boys follow the Reds at the club, and when the World Cup was on, we had everyone. The Women's World Cup and the Men's World Cup was pretty cool to watch. So
I know you're gonna ask me my favourite teams as well. Maybe I'll go through them next.
I probably should.
Yeah, but I don't really follow basketball or the NFL, but I have a team. I went to London last year, and my favourite rappers, Frankie Stu and Harvey Gunn, they support Arsenal.
Yeah, okay, the Gunners.
I love the Gunners.
Did you go watch a game? Or?
No, I didn't. But I do enjoy their content, which is good. You mentioned before, talking about sort of vlogging off camera, like this year, you love your American content, you're vlogging and stuff, and how cool it is in the NFL and American sports in general, even EPL and all that sort of stuff. Like, who do you watch? What do you like about it? And do you ever see that it would happen in AFL? Like, do you like those tendencies to come, and would you like to see people doing it?
Yeah, I love that side of following like the big athletes around the world. Probably out of interest of like what they get up to, but also they live a pretty crazy lifestyle. So I think as we were speaking about before, that the fact that they could probably have someone by their side 24/7, and it's on a bigger scale. So I don't think we're quite at that stage yet of in Australia, but I feel like people, particularly, I've got a couple of younger brothers, like that's the way the world's going, is interacting through that. Like, I don't even watch that much live TV anymore. It'll just be YouTube. And so I definitely think there's a market for it. And I think at Clubland, there's some clubs that do it really well with the inner sanctum things, but I'm sure there's a lot of kids and a lot of supporters out there that want that sort of content and see what people get up to. And I think as soon as a few guys start to break the mold, it might become more of a trend. I know you said you were starting a bit of the vlogging. Like, you want to do it well, don't you? Otherwise, it's probably not going to be. You've got to start somewhere.
I think you've got to start somewhere, and it's never going to be what you want at the beginning. But like I was telling you before, the Nelk boys, there's this, for anyone out who doesn't know, they're a American, actually Canadian YouTube sort of group. They're like these pranksters and stuff. And basically this one guy, Jesse MTV, left and is doing his own vlog now. And it's sort of about his business and apparel line and stuff. And I was like, fuck, I want to do this. So Moth this year is like, we're going to release one a month of just like purely inner sanctum stuff, like no holes barred. Like, we'll talk about everything that we do here. Just because I think it's such a cool insight into seeing exactly what people do. Because I watched theirs. It's called Bloody Sunday. was like, fuck, this is so interesting. Like, we could do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You like that stuff, but your social presence isn't massive. Like, as in, people want to know more about you, but you're not a big poster and stuff. Like, would you ever do that sort of thing, or?
Yeah, and that's a bit ironic thing that I do enjoy watching it so much.
Yeah.
Probably haven't quite put myself out there yet.
Is it something you think about, or is it just like?
I think down the line I'd love to do something, and then there's also a bit in the back of your head you're like, I just want to keep on working to become that established player or established team. But there's also
there's beauty in the journey, though.
People love seeing where we've built it from. And there's no doubt the club would have a lot of vision that they've kept from a long time if you wanted to do.
I'd love to have
that kind, or like a documentary, or
I'd love to have your login socials. And just do it. I just do it myself. I just post videos and photos. I just do the coolest shit. Yeah,
and that's the stuff that I really find pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I might have to give you a week on my socials and see what
I would build if I was you.
Up.
I'd be getting someone from the club to just film one thing a week, and like even if it's you in the gym doing rehab, cutting it up as like a little vlog and just posting it on socials.
Which I definitely think there's some players that are doing it really well now. And
you look at Petrarca and
even throughout the juniors with baseline footy, like that's that's become really big. That's probably taken over as how everyone gets their draft knowledge
100%.
now, which in the States they do that for all the young basketballers. And as long as everyone's it's hard when you're probably getting that attention from a young age to keep on keeping the head down. But I think a lot of the young guys are doing it well now.
Because I love that video that they made. Remember that one they made of you and you did like the whoosh whoosh?
Oh,
you know the one. Yeah. That's a good video. More of that.
It's pretty cool.
More of that this year. Before we get into talking about the Blues, because the people listening are going to want to know what sort of happened this year, remiss of me to ask this, and I already know the answer to this, I think. Did the Canes Corns thing ever annoy you? Did it ever get under your skin, or did it ever penetrate your mind at all?
Yeah, there definitely was some tougher stages throughout it. In my first year, I think you're just going out there playing footy. There's always healthy arguments with any draft year between players, and our draft was very strong and still is, which is cool to see because I played juniors with a lot of those guys, and we did well. Like you're in the AIS Academy and stuff, like you get very close. So it is cool to see those guys go well, but then you also you're going up to battle against them also. And probably in my second year, I didn't have a great start to my second year, and that's when a lot of the talk started to come around, the number one pick. And I think it definitely motivated me, but I didn't use that as something that I was thinking about going out game down, like I've got to prove this guy wrong. And I think you probably learn everyone's entitled to their opinion. I think in terms of whether who's right or who's wrong, I reckon we've got to see that at the end of the career. Mm-hmm. Like there's so many things, and probably as soon as you think you got it sorted, there's something coming around the corner for you, whether for me it was like injury challenges or and being the competitive person I am, I sort of want to prove people wrong, or more so I've leaned on proving people right that are in my corner. So I think that stuff is always, it's not personal, but yeah, people can have their opinion.
Love that. I love that saying as well, is like, it's not proving people wrong, it's proving people right.
Yeah, that's been big. And the biggest thing that I get joy from, like other than probably training hard and then seeing that come out game day, is like the joy that I can give people, like my family, my mates, us as a team, like inspiring like the younger kids that haven't got to see Carlton do too well. So I think that stuff brings out a lot more joy than thinking about proving 2 or 3 people right that have had their opinion on the way you play.
Bloody oath. It's very fun. I love Kane. I love what he does. I think it's great for the game, but I love it even better when he's wrong. Like, not wrong, but you know, when players prove him wrong. 'Cause at the end of the day, he's a great talent in that sense. And whilst it might not be the mission, he's actually, if you can respond well to it, like you have, it's it's
and
been
I
really
think
cool.
I think the hardest thing for people was that for me, I can control how like I respond to that and how I go out and play. But sort of probably family and friends.
Yeah.
They don't have that
You got to keep
control.
mum and dad off Facebook.
Yeah, mum and dad might have a different. If they interviewed about Kane, they might say something different.
Yeah.
I think as long as like people are doing a bit of their research, backing up their point, or I just also enjoy when in the media, if they've got something wrong, then they follow it up.
Yeah.
Because I know there was some people within that time, if you go back and watch some of the shows, they were re-ranking the draft order and stuff and had me in certain positions, but they're not going back and doing that like
Again.
a year or two later. And
Yeah.
and that's also why I said...
Well, Kane did come out and say he got it wrong, didn't he?
And Kane come out and said... So, and there was some people that didn't quite do that. But
Yeah. Very good.
yeah, I think it's good fun, and I think they know that putting Carlton in the headlines creates a lot of talk. So
Man,
that comes along with it.
I can feel, you're an extremely humble and very beautiful person, but I can feel that sort of competitiveness and that there is that in there. Like, where does that come from? Has it always been sort of prevalent, and have you had to sort of channel it more or channel it less at some stages? Like, I know what it's like being in a competitive environment, but from what I have heard again multiple times, like you're up there with one of the most competitive white line sort of fever players that guys have played with. And do you wear that as a badge of sort of pride?
Yeah, I think from as long as I can remember, it's just like I've always just wanted to have the dream to play AFL footy, which I've been lucky enough to realise. So I think the competitiveness throughout juniors and on days off of training, going for runs or doing a bit of gym or going for a kick, like that always drove me because I also had the passion for the game as well. So I feel like when you got a passion for something, you really want to do well. And I think that probably got to me to the point where I am now. I think there's times when I'm out there, particularly the challenges of AFL football or any high level, there's going to be times where it's not going as well. And sometimes I reckon I've let that competitive edge tip over to come across as maybe a bit selfish or because it's not going our way, I've sort of cracked the shits and I verbalise it rather than probably now I'm starting to learn how important the body language side of it is. If I've made a mistake, how can I channel that into I'm gonna get a tackle next or and since I've become probably a little bit older than some of the guys coming through, showing them an example of if you make a mistake, how do you follow it up? Whereas I probably at times want to do things that well that when I don't, I'll let that distract me for the next 5 minutes. Yeah. So I think while it's probably been the point, it's got me to this point. There's also if you can channel it in the right ways better, I think that's how I become more of a consistent player, more reliable.
It's funny, isn't it? Like when you get a bit older, I'm a lot older than you. I think I've realised now, like all my best assets are also my biggest weaknesses.
Yeah.
So like it's just how you can channel it and how you use it. And it's like you might say then, you got to focus on certain things, but it's also what makes you who you are. So you got to firstly just acknowledge that it's like the strongest thing. But yes, there's a couple of things can be improved. But I think so long when I was young, I'd always focus on how I could improve certain things. But it's like, no, you just actually got to do the things you're really fucking good at and nail that first.
Wow. Yeah.
Then worry about, like, you're always going to have shit that you can improve.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And even what you were saying before with you feeling good doing exercises, like you would have been working so hard in here to get that right, but then it takes away from
exactly. Like it's the same drive. Like it was just channeled into something different.
Yeah.
So it's just that, like, I definitely have when I can zero in on something, it's like an unhealthy obsession. Yeah. But it's just what I zero that into.
Build it to this. I know.
Yeah. So it's sort of what you can put it into, and like for me to lose the six pack and the shoulders, I had to really put it into something else. But
did someone catch you on that, or you just like?
Mate, I did. I spoke about this the other day as well. But like it's an interesting point as well. I'm very open with this sort of thing, and I know a lot of people struggle with their body and physical image. But I remember I went to a wedding recently with a few mates from school, and since 18, I'd always been in pretty good condition because I've been an athlete, and you get paid to work out, so it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I remember since leaving, when you said you got empathy for injured players, I've got so much empathy now for people I hate the saying the real world, but in the everyday world of how you can work a job, spend time with family and stay fit. And people that do that, like I'm like got the most admiration for. So when I went to this wedding, I remember my mates and I remember around the pool and they were looking at me and I was like, Yeah, okay, it's probably time. Probably time to
feel those glances.
Probably time to sort of work a few things out.
Yeah.
And, from there, it's been a big journey. We signed up. Like, I'm so lucky in my environment here. Like, it is like a footy club. Like, we all push each other. We work together. We go on runs. We're super competitive, but in a good way. And now we're doing gym together. We want to do the marathon this year. But it got to the stage as well for me, being a young dad. Like, these are the standards now that I want my son to grow up and be proud of me, you know. So I think that doesn't mean that if you're not fit, your parent, but it's just like,
different ways.
For me, it's like, it's really important to have a healthy lifestyle. And the best quote, we said this a lot, but it's like, a lot of people say they die for their kids, but would you get healthy for them? And I saw that on TikTok, and it really hit me.
TikTok wisdom.
Mate, TikTok wisdom's changed my life. It really has. What would you say, and if you had to be completely honest, and we know how humble you are in this sense, and it might be hard to say on a public platform, but if you had to say, what do you think what habits that you have make you the best version of yourself? What gets you to the best version of yourself? What are the habits that you have?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the habits I've had from a young age, and this in any job you do, is like you've got to work hard for it. Like, that's probably the underlying thing that I've always been probably willing to do, is do the work. And also, a bit like you mentioned before, is always trying to improve or better yourself. And I think that mindset just keeps you on the edge. And I think that's allowed me to have a consistency of what I do. And I think teams in the AFL and players in the AFL, what sets them apart is they just do it every week. So keeping pretty even keeled is big on that. For me. I'm pretty big with my routine. Try and live like the lifestyle that's going to allow me to put my best foot forward, and then also surrounding myself with good people that are going to tell me how it is, but then also I do like a lot of that positive reinforcement, which a lot of my coaches have had. And probably going into my second year, I wanted to improve so much that I was focusing on so many things, like you mentioned before. But then I sat down with Luke Power, who development coach at the time, and he sort of reminded me, like, this is what these couple of things, you've been doing that since your juniors. Like, these are your 3 things that make you a great player or a good player, or a player that stood out to me. And I think if you're a young kid in any sport, it's like, what do I do really well and make that stand out? And then if you have that work rate, other things will come off the back of it.
It's like that 80-20 rule. Like 80% of the things I'm going to fuck that up, but something 80-20. I don't know. Google it.
80% positive, 20% negative, is it?
Yeah, something like that. It more means like 20, you get 80% of your, I've got it. 80% of like the good things that happen actually comes from the 20%. Anyway, let's just.
You're probably on
it's
good
another.
track
It's
then,
another
but,
year and another year of butched quotes.
I think it's 80% of your returns come from.
That's it. That's it, Das. He said 20. What is it again? 20% of your returns come from. Okay, 80% of your returns come from 20% of your input. Meaning you'll get. Fuck it.
First one of the year.
Self-improvement sort of stuff. I know how much Cripper loves his sort of pods, and he loves his books and all those sort of things. So we often sort of exchange a few like podcasts and stuff. And I sent him the one the other day. Have you listened to the Huberman podcast with David Goggins yet?
No, I haven't.
It's really interesting. I'm not a massive David Goggins, like, I like him and really obviously respect what he does, but I think that there's more to just like getting out and running like 600 Ks a night. But overarching, that's like the only clip you see. There's actually a lot more substance to him in this episode. It's fucking unbelievable, man. Like, you got to check it out. He talks about this part of the brain, Huberman does, that's called the anterior something. Darcy, can you get the name of it, please? And basically this part of the brain only grows when you do things you don't want to do. And they can't, like, just say, for example, you love running 10Ks, it won't grow.
Yeah.
But there's those things that you know, metaphorically, you put off all the time in your head, and you might not, but it just shows how much you've got to do them. And that part, you know, really grows when you do those things, and they call it nearly like the will to live But listen to the podcast. Anyone
Yeah,
out there,
okay.
Huberman Lab with David Goggins, Andrew Huberman, who's like a neuroscientist, like explains it. It's seriously unbelievable. Did you get the name of it, Darcy? No, like the quote, we've butchered it again. It's in the podcast. Listen to it. But I think you'd really like it.
Yeah, I think.
Is there something you hate doing that you do?
Well, it's a good point, and I think pre-season you got it.
What is it, Darcy?
Anterior mid.
Anterior mid-frontal cortex.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Something like that. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I think we're probably fortunate enough at the club that those things are put to us. We've got the club psychologist, and Vossi's very strong in the leadership space. The biggest things that probably haven't come naturally for me and us as a group is like the communication when you're fatigued or like this is more footy specific.
Yeah, for sure.
But also even sometimes having the tougher conversations or driving standards that are tough. That's probably the biggest thing as a group where we can keep on getting our growth. And I feel like there's a lot of guys like Cripper that drive that standard really well. And I think like for me, it's probably just keep on building habits that is going to reflect what our standards are. So while it might not always be the easiest thing to do, you've got to do it. So there's nothing that I can put my finger on. Maybe it's playing golf. I hate
yours might be playing.
that.
You should go and do that more.
Yeah.
For example, mine was jiu-jitsu.
Really?
I couldn't think of anything worse than doing jiu-jitsu, so I've started going.
There you go. How's it been?
Terrible. No, it's actually quite fun. I actually really enjoyed it. Went with Max Viney. Have you seen the...
Yeah, okay.
We should go together.
Yeah. Let's do it. We have a jiu-jitsu coach at the club.
Oh, do? Who you got?
His name's Robbie.
Robbie?
Yeah.
Robbie Jiu-Jitsu?
He looks like Fish.
Does he really?
Fish dressed up as him for Mad Monday.
Apparently Fish had a good break and he came back a bit heavy.
Well, sadly Fish isn't at Blues anymore, so I can't report on that.
Okay. Yeah.
I think he might have needed a slightly bigger suit at Maddie Kennedy's wedding, but that's all. So.
Wow.
I think, he's looking good now.
I think he's looking good. Ready for a big year for the Fishwa. Mate, the Blues. Last year, middle of the year, I seriously forgot this before we're about to chat today, and it shows how quickly things can change in footy, which you'll know better than anyone. Like a week's a long time. Things can change very quickly. Middle of the season, it was not looking good for the club. And being at Carlton, spotlight on, media attention, my biggest thing that I think Carlton have really struggled with for a long time is the external narrative coming inside. And from even when I was there, I just remember it was like, if it was in the paper, then they'd start stressing about it. And I was like, fucking hell, it just happened 4 or 5 times. And even in my head, I was like, this is got to be the moment here. Either they fold and sack Voss, or they actually go internally, no, fuck this, we're staying with him and we're going together and the tide will turn. Were you aware of obviously how much that pressure was? Was that a known thing? Internally for you, how did that feel, and what were your thoughts around that whole sort of time period?
Yeah, I think you've put that spot on. And in my first couple of years, seen 2 coaches be sacked, and the harsh reality is, I think the biggest, when you're growing up, you want to play in front of big crowds and for a big club, and Carlton's definitely that, and it's nearly everything you dreamed of as a kid. But then there's also the other side of it is, when it's not going well, there's going to be people coming at you. And I think the biggest thing that I learnt from particularly Vossi, but even Cookie as a CEO, is the ability of leadership to withstand pressure and how that flows through the group. It's like how they rocked up on a Monday or a Tuesday after a tough loss from us. And they were busy just getting to work on the solution, not worrying about what's being said or... So I think Cookie's obviously a lot more behind the scenes, and coming into AFL club, I wouldn't even be able to tell you why a CEO is important, but I probably would now. So from the top down, and then I think Vossi has been put in a lot of positions now where he's had to learn from the Brisbane experience. Being at Port Adelaide, he was under Ken Hinkley for 10, 12 years. They had ups and downs as it was, and the way he sort of led us through that was great, I thought. And when we were coming into the club, there was definitely frustration, and players were down on confidence, so it probably showed we were feeling the pressure a bit. But I also find that there's a lagging period in sport or with a lot of things you do, because we were probably working on the problem from that we've seen in our game, and maybe a few training standards from like round 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, but it took until round 10, 11, 12 to catch up to that point, because there's teams that were doing that over the pre-season really well. Or we went down to Ed Kerno's, which has been highly talked about for a fair bit, but I think that was a bit more what you were saying before, is the playing group. You can have Vossi in that doing as much as they like, but you've got to have buy-in from the group. And we sat down and said, how do we want to be seen as a team? We do a lot of talking about it, but are we actually actioning it? And that's when we started to see more team footy, defending as a team. It's sometimes the slightest change. I was doing a coaching course before the Gold Coast game for level 2 AFL coaching, and Brendan McCartney came in, and there was 13 of us boys in there, and he's like, boys, I don't know if you know it, but you're a bee's dick off. And we were all sitting there like, yeah, like we think we're capable, but we've got to go out there and do it. And then we went on to win so many in a row. So I seen him down in Geelong the other day and had a bit of a laugh about that, because he wasn't far from it either. But it just shows it's the finer margins, particularly at the highest level, because once again, going into this year, there'll be probably legitimately like 14, 15 teams that are pushing for the top 8.
Yeah.
So as soon as you slightly fall off what you want to be seen as a group, it can be hard.
How crazy!
That's a long answer, by the way.
No, I loved it, mate. That's what podcasting is. I loved it though, because for so long you can build momentum and confidence. And I think momentum's such an interesting word in footy, because it is so important. But to get confidence and to really get on one of those roles, you do need to just get the 4 points. And it's almost like you can have the momentum and the confidence, but if you're not securing the wins, then as soon as they start flowing in, it's like you're just off to the races.
Yeah.
But I suppose as hard as it is to gain it, it's probably just as easy to let it go.
That's
why
right.
it's a continual thing.
For us, it was probably that second quarter against Gold Coast. Yeah. Even just that week, like, took a bit more ownership with, like, how can we get back to being our best around centre bounce? So Cripper got some vision from the year before. We sat down, we watched it, and we probably generated 3 or 4 goals out of our centre clearance stuff throughout that quarter. And once again, I go back to, you just can't beat doing the work. And obviously there was a lot of variables within that time, but for us as a group, I think stability is the main thing. And we've had that the past 2 years, and now it's the playing group to keep driving the standards.
List in good shape.
Yeah, no, definitely.
That trip to Ed Kerno's, like, I know there might have been some. I didn't actually hear a lot about it though. What did you do down there?
Yeah, so we drove down after
comedy shows.
Yeah, we went to Japan.
Yeah.
Well, it probably was a comedy show if you had the vloggers on that.
Yeah.
But Ed Kerno has a place down in Bells Beach, and it was Wednesday after a training, and we went down there and just had a bonfire, sat around it, had dinner there, and even probably each person had a couple of beers, which is rare midweek.
Yeah.
But the thing was, like, even after that sort of get together, and like we felt really confident about turning around, and then we played Essendon that week and lost again. So it wasn't like it just flicked over that week. And so that following week was a real test for the group. But I thought we started to train with more of a purpose on how we wanted to be seen for that sort of month leading into that. So it wasn't just a one-off thing. Like, there's no magic answer, the magic show. But I think we learned a lot of valuable lessons that you hope you don't forget for the rest of your career.
100%.
Which is us for a group. We need to do that.
2024 heading in now, it's probably different now. There's expectation going into the season. Well, different expectation anyway.
Yeah.
A few questions. What teammates have had the biggest influence on you? Maybe answer that one first.
Yeah, the one that stands out for me is Cripper.
Yeah.
It's probably a go-to answer for a lot of the boys, but in my first week, I'll live with Weeders, and then I'll live with Cripper, and probably being in the midfield definitely relate to. But he gave me a lot of confidence early on to just go out there and play footy. So did Bolts, just by saying that you're playing on the wing and you're going out there and doing this. And Cripper used to always say to me, mate, there's no reason why you can't go out there and be the best player on the field because you've done the work.
Yeah.
So first year,
Cool to have a leader say
unbelievable.
that. Yeah.
So they're the things that like you never forget. Like, you know, it's like you go into a club and I can nearly remember what my first week was like because you're so on. And he's definitely a guy that I've kept on looking up to. And from there as well, like the professional side of it, Simo was unbelievable. And then the running side of the game, Murph, like the way he used to use his angles and burst, and that's what I want to keep getting in my game. So I still catch up with Murph every now and then for a coffee, and he definitely took a few of us younger boys under his wing as well. So they were probably the main three in my first year.
Huge. Which teammates are most underrated and why?
That's a good question. I don't know if he's underrated, but Matty Cottrell.
I had him here.
Yeah.
I sat next to his dad at the final at Brisbane as well.
Yeah, right.
Good
Was
man.
he up and about?
Have they got a recycling company or something like that?
Yeah, so his brother runs a construction
That's
sort
it.
of company.
I was trying to get the hat.
Yeah, well, he had the number on his hat, and against Melbourne, a fair few of my mates, like they were all sitting behind his brother. So throughout the game, they were calling him up. Could see him starting to get frustrated, like looking around. Someone was stitching him up. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, Cott's got a few brothers. But yeah, the way he connects, like, you know, it's like now where the forwards have to get nearly as deep as any player. So he connects us really well. And
it's a hard
role to play.
So hard.
So I think, and also I reckon a bit biased, but like, I reckon Weeders should be an All-Australian backman by now, but internally, like 1-2 BNFs, and the work that he does, more to do vocally than anything. Like you see the
setting everyone
steps
up.
that you take and that, but he's a guy that really steers the ship.
Is a star Weeders. One thing I'm not happy with this year with Cottrell though, and I'm not sure if you care about this, but I really do. Is he's changed his number?
No, Cots hasn't.
He went from 46 to, didn't he change?
No, Cots is too loyal. Nah, he's stayed with 46. Yeah,
oh my God, I thought that he changed his number.
No.
Was it reported that he...
Mate, there's been a lot of boys change their number, but not Cots. What are your thoughts? So no,
I love the 46 on him. Because I think it tells a story.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think it tells a great story. I love the rookie mindset. I love the high number. I think that him and the 46 he can make it his own.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even like, as you said, like you look at the names on the locker at that end, there's not many. It's like...
Did Dave Allard, I don't know if he's on the locker. It's funny because it's similar sort of... Yeah, one or two. But your number. Yeah. I've had some opinions on this, and I'm not sure if you heard them. Not as brash as Kane Corn's opinions, but early days I was confused by the 18. Because I had a big thing where I was like, 18 is like it's sort of like a key position player. Like it's sort of like a Wayne Carey. We're not entirely on good terms at the moment, but it's like a
Jezza Cameron.
Yeah, Jezza Cameron sort of thing. But I would be completely honest with you on this. You've really turned me onto it, on your back.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I didn't even pick the number.
So it just got given to you?
Yeah, it got given to me, and nearly a little bit the same. Like there was some pretty cool numbers up for grabs, like 11 with Brewstall.
Yeah. At that time? Or?
Yeah, at that time. I think Gov might have had that in his contract, so he snatched that up pretty quick. Before that, my favourite number was 22, but I wasn't moving Marchie out of that.
Really? Yeah, okay.
I think the cool thing about 18 was I was drafted in 2018, so that will always be pretty cool. And Justin Jefferson, wide receiver for Minnesota. He's got a bit of swag. So
well, I do like the fact as well that you're probably the only 18 that's like a midfielder in the comp as well.
Matty Rao.
Anyway. Do you like the numbers? Do you like see when players are in certain numbers?
Oh yeah, I'm not like some people are freaks with it. With
but in your team, if you were like, I don't really want him there, would you say something?
Probably not.
Okay. I wouldn't say anything either, but I'd think it.
Yeah.
Because even this year with Hollands, moved from the 14 to the 4. I really liked him in the 14.
Yeah. Well, that was hard as well because we had a clinic the other day and a few kids rolling around in the 14.
That's what I mean. So they've invested in it, and it's sort of hard.
Kept with the Razio Fantasia now with the 14.
Yeah. Anyway, Shit story, but thought I'd sort of add you on that one. And last but not least, who's ready for a big year? Who do you think is going to come back and is in sort of good nick at the moment, ready for a big season?
Yeah, I think Tommy DeConning is ready to take that. He already showed it. And his game against Melbourne was unreal.
Fuck, he's taken some big clunks.
Stood
and
up
shit.
when we weren't going great in that first quarter to kick those 2 goals. And I really admire the rucks. Like, you hear how hard they crash in every week. And
I couldn't think of anything worse.
No. And it's generally there's probably maybe key position still a bit like that one-on-one battle. It's like you won your battle today or not, which I really respect. Like, that's
it's 1v1 really.
So yeah, I think he's had a great preseason and pretty versatile player as well.
I like him in the 12 too.
Yeah,
suits him.
Fits it well.
Suits him. Hey, do you set goals for the year? Do you put like pen to paper, or is it more just sort of manifest and put into the universe? Or are you sort of a diary sort of guy?
I definitely more short-term goals than long-term goals. So pretty diligent on planning my week and what I want to get out of that. I found as soon as I'll start looking too far forward, can probably start getting me pressing too much for that.
Yeah.
I think I'll probably learn as well, maybe sometimes with the individual stuff, like that'll come off the back of what my role is, excelling in that, and then the flair and everything will come off the back of that. And I think team success goes in hand with those individual awards, which you never play for. It's always nice to get acknowledgement, but I think you find like if your team's up there finishing top 4 and that, you're having
good
great
seasons.
fun year of footy. And that feeling that we had playing finals, I've like never felt that type of feeling before. So that is one of the ones that you want to keep the group onto, because it takes, last year we would use 38, 39 players to get to that point. So being a strong group can create some good memories.
No, it's super exciting, man. I'm so pumped for this season to see what happens. And you reminded me with Fantasia as well. Like, he's one of those guys that can come in and play a pretty significant role, I feel.
Yeah. Very classy.
We like that. Mate, to finish up, I appreciate your time. It's been unbelievable.
I've loved it.
It's been very, very good. Watching, listening, reading. Are you watching anything? Are you listening to anything or reading anything, or just even just favourites of all time? What would you recommend for us?
Yep. So, I just finished watching Bye Bye Barry on Amazon. It's about Barry Sanders.
Remind us who that is again.
He was a running back for the Detroit Lions.
Oh yeah.
So I thought he was pretty cool story to listen to, and
give us what happens in it.
So it's about how he was like the best in the game, and pretty much retired early without telling anyone why at the top of his game. And I won't spoil it too much from there.
You find out?
Yeah. So he goes, it's the first real sit-down interview with him. And also it's quite funny because I'm a bit out there with my goal celebrations, and he talks about like how he never celebrated, like when and pass the ball to the ref. So it's had me thinking twice on that. But
no, I love your celebrations.
A real cool, like mellow dude. But I'm a sucker for any sports. Like I reckon the best sports soccer is Last Dance. Like everyone knows about that.
Yep.
I don't mind my music either. Have you seen the Defiant ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that.
That was good.
I think that's off Netflix
on the sports
now,
docos though. I got 2 for you.
Go for it.
I don't really like. I'm not massive into American sports, but I do like the docos on them. The Brady 6. That has to be one of the best documentaries I've ever seen, just on Tom Brady, and it's like the 6 quarterbacks taken before him, and then like goes through for anyone out there who wants to watch it. I don't know where you can watch it anymore, but
we've actually got Tom Brady coming into the club next week.
You're kidding, because he's in Melbourne, isn't he?
Yeah.
Are you gonna like?
No, I've always thought like, what do you ask the GOAT? Because like as you said, then like so many good docos on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's like the undisputed GOAT of the NFL, really.
Yeah.
And I cut you off. What was the second one?
No. I was just couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
There's 2 more. One is if you like 30 for 30, is the Detroit Pistons Bad Boys. You seen that one?
Yeah, so good.
Lambeer and all those guys. It's like about basically they just weren't the best team, but they were just such a tight unit. Isaiah Thomas, and they were sort of like pretty dirty, but also just tough. And then probably not a great story, but one that was fucking so interesting was the Aaron Hernandez doco.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that I didn't know much about heading into it. And
but like this guy, a running back, you know, teammate of Brady, Bill Belichick, played for the New England Patriots and had murdered 2 people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those
whilst
ones,
playing.
Yeah. One of those ones, even now, I watch a bit of it and none of the players talk on it at all or anything.
Yeah.
It's just, you don't think that happens in...
No.
Particularly like...
Crazy.
Yeah. In the footy club, you can't really do much without everyone knowing, you know what I mean? So...
But then just rocking up to training with like a gun.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
not good. But just crazy. Just crazy. Really good. Sorry, so listening... Oh, that was the Defiant ones with Eminem and...
Yeah. Oh, I've watched... Yeah, so that's another good one that I've watched.
Yeah.
Listening at the moment, because I love my NBA, JJ Redick, he does a lot of he interviews like pretty much like this, a lot of the players. Yep. So it's pretty cool hearing them speak.
Have you learned anything from any NBA players? Like, has anything ever stood out to you?
It definitely is a lot more individual driven sport, I reckon. You can definitely see like the absolute freaks to be in that position because it's such a big sport. And listen to a cool one the other day, like that involved like Dame Lillard and just how he said he sits back and observes for the first quarter and then he would just go in attack mode. So just sort of like that step out and then step into it. So little things like that you pick up on. And I have particularly grown up listening to you and the Howie games. So I had a Dyl Friends t-shirt that Mum bought, which was like 5 or 6 years ago now before I got drafted, and you did the personalised note to it, like
that's fucking great.
Illy at the end of it. So that was... Thought you were hitting on my mum, saying Illy at the end of it.
She's a beautiful lady, but I wouldn't do that.
So listen, I really love the Richo one. I thought that was great.
Richard,
which he was a bit before my time, but there's probably plenty that sometimes you can't remember.
Of course, it's better than Hodgie, not Hodgie. Yeah, Hodgie came on and said that his favourite episode was Nathan Buckley. I just hadn't had Nathan Buckley on the show yet.
Was that cut out or?
I think we left it in. No, we leave it in. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not. It was funny.
Great.
Yeah. It was good. So at least you got someone that was actually on the pod. Reading. Are you a reader? You read anything cool?
I actually, I've gone through phases of reading, and at the club we sort of go through a few books that's handed out.
Yep.
So that's more, if I'm more reading to learn stuff, we're reading the Dan Carter book at the moment. So he was the number 10 for the All Blacks. So I've only just started that, but actually I've been reading Eminem, The Way I Am.
Oh wow!
So
that'd be sick.
Yeah, I didn't even know the book was out. One of the people that works at the club handed it to me because I was listening to heaps of Eminem. So pretty cool story that, like where he come from and.
Is it like this isn't a joke, but is this different? Is it different to 8 Mile? Because that's like that wasn't. I was actually serious.
But he does speak about that in there, and he said that was like he tried to pretty much show in a little bit more glorified way of how he grew up.
Yeah.
I'm mentioning like a lot of Detroit things, so I might have to go visit Detroit. But,
yeah, you love Detroit.
Yeah, that's. I'm all about like the sports books and stuff, particularly growing up. But
that Dan Carter book, I haven't read that, but we got handed out years ago at the club, Legacy.
Yeah.
And I actually just picked that up the other day because we're doing a cultural meeting here and want to set some values and stuff. And it was crazy how just like transferable those things are of the All Blacks, of like, you know, sweep the sheds and pivot at the top of your game. Even when you think you're dominating, like add new strings to your bow. And it's just...
They were nearly ahead of the game in that sense, weren't they? Like,
oh, mate, it's crazy.
Because, there's probably a lot of those things we've come to learn, particularly over the last 5 to 6 years, of how powerful that stuff is. But that was like, they were doing that back in 2007
and
after
that's
that
a crazy
World Cup,
thing, man. When it's on paper, it's obviously lasted a long time and things change, but that they're all still quite relevant.
Yeah. To have like, what they have over that period, like an 87% win
rate.
Percentage, like you got to be doing.
Yeah. Crazy. Mate, thank you so much for your time today, bro. I really appreciate it, man. It's been unbelievable to get you in. I can't wait to see what happens to you both personally and with the club this year. Massive admirer and supporter of what you do. I don't say that lightly. And love everything you're about, mate. So thank you so much.
Likewise, mate. Thank you.